and so forth, well, you have to start that with your leadership team. You have to start talking with them about these, hidden messages that they're sending to your staff that says, oh, don't contribute ideas.
So it's a courageous move. You change the language, you start to talk about failure. I don't know many CIOs who are really comfortable talking about failure. It wasn't one of the things I brought up at the IS Steering Committee. So how do we get past that?
Well, part of it is also looking at what the business is really trying to do. If the business is trying to enable a lot of innovation and creativity, and your organization is still punishing folks who come up with new ways of working, they come up with a contrary idea to what you have established in your processes and so forth, well, you have to start that with your leadership team. You have to start talking with them about these hidden messages that they're sending to your staff that says, oh, don't contribute ideas. When you have a failure, we don't want you to talk about the failure because we're going to beat you with the stick that you carried into this meeting. And you have to address these kind of behaviors head on.
So we have to first know who we are, take your survey. Second, start to look at our language and how we talk and how we talk to each other in terms of there. So what about recruiting? How do we transform that to get the best candidates?
Well, with recruiting, you have to look at what behaviors do we really want in these particular roles. So if you look at your job descriptions, they're likely built, a couple of decades ago. They might have been improved, but they were probably improved because the position that you used to have didn't have the pay band that you required for this new role. So you created yet another one and kind of cranked it out in the same way. So you have to go through and look at your job descriptions and ask yourself, well, what kinds of non-technical skills do we really need here? What competencies do we need in this individual? And really think about, for instance, in influence skills, who are they going to be influencing? Who are they going to be discussing problems with day to day? What kind of communication skills do they need and need to practice? And also, quite honestly, demonstrate in the interview process, so that you're setting some expectations for what kind of things you might be asking them to tell you about. And in that hiring process, also debate vigorously the technical skills that you have to have. Because we've kind of gotten away from developing people. And quite honestly, if we're going to keep people in the organization, we're going to have to really entice them by engaging them. And that's engaging our minds, engaging our passion. And the top two reasons that people leave or stay inside of a role is, number one, that it's really part of their passion. And the other one is that they get to make a contribution. And in our field research, we only came up with 2 data points where people said that it was because of pay. The majority all related to these kinds of more, inner being kind of things. And in the development side, we have to think about how are we actually enticing people to stay and contribute in this organization? And that has to be embodied in your hiring process. That has to be embodied where you're actually attracting the people you want into your organization.
And if you're engaging them, you'll keep them, even at the expense of not being the best payer in the street.
Well, in fact, we have some good examples of, especially with universities, where they classically can't compete on pay inside of an area against those folks that are in the private industry. They can't compete on pay alone. So we've had some CIOs, one in particular, actually focused on saying, I know I can't compete on pay, so I'm going to compete on developing people. And what that person did was also looking for opportunities to do not just development in kind of the big bang kind of model, during our annual planning, identify the 2 classes you're going to take. No, this person has his managers look at what kind of opportunities can I give you every day? If you have an aspiration to become someone that is talking with executives on a regular basis, give you the opportunity to go along with a person that might be doing that job today. See how it's done, experience it. Look for these, kind of serendipitous opportunities to develop people. And when you focus on the development, it's also really important to have conversations and change the way that you even do the development conversation to start to understand what is your passion? What is it that you'd really like to do? As a good example, we have a need for folks that understand sociology. And you might find that there's Java programmers on your staff that might have a sociology degree, but it's kind of this hidden gem underneath there. They've been doing this programming for a while just to, make a buck, but their real passion lies in those things like psychology and sociology that you really need within inside of your organization. So if you open up the development conversation and start to get into not just the pure career path of here's what you need to do to go from analyst 1 to analyst 2, but get into a conversation of what is it that you'd really like to do and what kind of things do you have in your background that we might be able to take advantage of. And I think people will find a lot more folks in their staff already that understand some of these other behavioral things that we really need if they just ask.
I think they've learned to hide it. I think it's come full circle. When I started, we had mathematicians or musicians, but everybody had a fascinating story, and we learned technology on the job. And
Sure.
That's a long time ago. Somewhere along the line, we got to specialization, and I suspect that some of those people are actually hiding what they would think of those soft skills. I think you're right. You could probably uncover it.
Well, and look at my background. I mean, my background, I have a degree in computer science and mathematics. And, I have a very technical background coming up through different IT organizations. I have a deep understanding of architecture and strategy and governance. And then through all the work and helping organizations do behavior changing initiatives, I get really fascinated with, the sociology, with how brain functions, how people work inside. And, and so I developed that passion all on my own, which led me to this place. Now, I'm an analyst that covers this kind of thing, but you might find that there's folks inside of your organization that also have that same kind of curiosity and have taken them in different directions that they're, learning and maybe even applying outside with, different community organizations or something. But you could actually take advantage of that inside of your organization if you actually knew it existed.
We might be just presuming that they're not interested in not going after it. That's interesting. So I get what you're saying. We need engagement, we need passion, we need a new look at ourselves, and we need to start talking about failure and the real world, business in there. What do I do first? I'm like you. I've had a long experience in technology. What's the first thing I do if I say I get everything you say? What should I do tomorrow?
Well, I would say that you have to start with that introspection for, the kinds of things that might have led you to success might be a totally different skill set than what you need today. And that's true for CIOs as well, because, if we're back to the focus on expense management, operational efficiency, and so forth, I was talking with a CIO just yesterday, in fact, about how he really likes the operational side. He really likes the operational, understanding operational detail. And the fact is that those skills are not what he needs. He's talking to me about, I need to have these conversations about strategy, about the business with different folks in our organization, but I don't find that I have the time. And it's because his fundamental thing that he loves is absorbing his time. And yet he has to develop a new love, essentially. He has to develop a new focus within inside of his role.
I'm talking with Mike Rawlings, Vice President of Research for Gartner Inc. Thank you very much, Mike. Skills, talent, and leadership. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks for having me.